Hell fucking
Hello?
Oh, I hear something.
Oh, yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yep. I can hear you. You're
am I turned the wrong way again?
Yes.
Because, well, see, I have my phone turned. Fuck. You know what, man? Hold on. I got a rig on that you wouldn't even believe. Hold on a second. If you saw this rig, you'd be peeing your pants. Right, hold on. Boom. Boom. There we go. Oh my God. I have it on 2x4. Velcroed onto a 2x4. I should get. God damn, I look good. Just got to run into the kitchen in a few minutes and get the chicken out of the oven, because I would get my 10-year-old to do it, but to explain to my 10-year-old how to get the little oven, that is way too much for him to do. Like, we can't get him to put a dish in the sink, like I was saying before.
No, listen, don't burn the house. You know, don't want the house to burn down here.
We're not going to burn the house down.
Yeah.
So, but and also, you're going to be very upset with me.
Uh-oh.
I cheated on you. Yeah, I did.
What the fuck?
Okay. You're frozen. You just froze.
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble with the Wi-Fi for some reason. I don't know why.
How do I look?
You look fucking beautiful, Ray. You look great.
I do. I feel beautiful.
You got a nice haircut.
I got a haircut. I trimmed my beard.
Yep.
Fucking killing it.
It's because you come in celebrity status now.
I know, it's brutal. It's so tough being me, but the setup's just unreal. Okay, you can't. It's too hard to explain. But it's rigged like you've never seen. It's awesome.
Maybe you can get someone.
But anyway,
take a picture of it or something. I would love to see it.
Yeah, I know. He's way too busy right now. He's downstairs cursing at all his friends. He's 10 years old, and like, it's everything. Like, he lets out he'll say the MF word.
Wow.
Like, I'm saying it with a bunch of my friends at like a lumberyard. Like, I'm trying to teach him not to say it in front of grown-ups. That's it. Because he can't. Right. I mean, it's 2 point. I mean, there's no point in trying to figure it out now. I mean, I know that's bad parenting. I'm a really good parent, but I also am horrible when it comes to discipline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't like discipline when I was a kid. Nobody likes discipline. And I'm just like, you know what? As long as he's not killing anybody, and he knows right from wrong, I think. And so, you know, if he wants to say fuck when he's playing Fortnite with Tommy Santini, then he can say fuck all he wants, you know. But just I try and dampen it down a little bit. But
yeah.
But what I was saying real quick is I cheated on you. I did a podcast with a dude at Woodward because he had heard this one and said, hey, if you're ever available for a podcast, let me know. And I said, well, I'm here for 3 days at Woodward. I'm not doing anything right now. And he goes, let's go. And me and two other big name BMX dudes, or me and two big name, it sounded like I incorporated myself with big name BMX guys. These guys were the biggest of big names. It was Mike Dominguez and Dave Volker. And I had 2 cigars, a big bottle of whiskey. And of course, they knew going into it, I was going to dominate all the speaking because that's what it's just because I'm a mental patient. But I told a few stories that I talked to you about, and then I told some other stories that we might talk about today. And it was really fun. It was funny, and it was good stuff. So maybe you can hear it one day.
I would love to check it out. Yeah. Listen, you know, like I said, now you're reaching celebrity status here, you know. But don't let it ever happen again.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, dude. Honestly, this this is volume 2 of storytelling with Large Ray.
Right.
And the last one is my biggest episode, dude. Like, as far as views and listens and downloads go.
Like, I don't know, like, how long you've been doing this, but so you might not have a lot of people right now, but I knew that if I just. And like, well, how many people, like, can you tell how many people listen to it, or at least started to listen to it? Or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
Like, do you have a number?
Normally like a couple hundred each show.
Yeah,
YouTube, it's like I don't know who wants to sit there and
Yeah.
watch something for an hour, but as far as the
Yeah.
podcast itself goes, but you're almost like 1,000, dude. And I've only been
Oh,
doing
wow,
this.
that's funny,
This is like my 20th episode, man. So I'm not pretty fresh.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the BMX community is huge. Like the old school BMX community is huge, and everybody that I've met in the community today that's like an old guy like me that likes BMX crap, they're all awesome, and they love hearing stories because everybody loves to relive their youth.
Right.
You know, and so I luckily was there and saw all the shit, and I have a somewhat good memory of stuff, and you know, and I just love to talk. So,
oh,
so
listen, man,
it's a good combination, you know.
I love it, man. I enjoy this show because number one, it's right at the top of our heads, pretty much, and it's a lot of fun, and people, I listen to them back, like I like to critique myself, or I let my wife listen to them and stuff like that, and the last one was funny, so we got a lot to live up to now.
Actually, I was watching it. I watched it with my wife, the one that you and I did, and the funniest thing was something that you did where you said something and then immediately you go, yeah, I know, that's what your wife said on your wedding night, because like I had already said it twice, and I say it all the time, and you said it, but the way you said it is you weren't smiling. You were just like, yeah, okay, enough's enough. And that was the fucking funniest thing. I was dying. I'm like, look, little Mikey's sick of my shit already. He's my buddy now because he's sick of my shit. Once you're sick of my shit,
I wasn't,
friend,
listen, I wasn't saying it like that. I know what you're talking about. And I don't think you heard me when we were doing it live.
It was,
but I was saying,
I didn't. That's what made it so fucking funny, dude.
I think it was more like you were just set up for the joke kind of thing. The thing was set up. Right. So. Oh man, it's great. Okay, here we go.
There we go. I see a cat with no eyeballs.
Yeah. Well, that is actually my new. That's my new logo for like for all the stuff that I do. So yeah,
I like it.
I'm weird like that, but I designed it, and I'm gonna start making some T-shirts and stuff. Actually, we're gonna get to that later. You're gonna find this really funny. So all right, storytelling. I
remember that day when that picture. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, there might be a delay, so that's the only reason.
Oh, no, I saw the picture. I said I remember that day, and that was a skinny Ray back then. That was back in 1991 in Las Vegas in a ditch. I think it was called Owens Ditch, possibly. And I saw the suicidal, like that's great graffiti. That's like the real logo. You know what I mean? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I feel like fucking they did it. You know what I mean? Like the band spray painted that. It looks so good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's great graffiti because it almost looks like you drew it in there. You know what I mean? Like with all your other stuff on there. And but so my friend Warren was riding that dish and crashed really bad. And that's why I remember that day so well. He crashed, and then we saw the suicidal thing. I was like, oh, let me hang upside down like their first album, and I did it. And it's fun.
No, I picked up on that right away. I was like, oh, suicidal. He's hanging upside down. We can actually use this to segue into the Suicidal Tendencies story because I don't have a pick for that.
Okay, yeah. It's not that great of a story, I don't think, but it's funny because it's the kind of thing where I had a great opportunity and I totally blew it. Like with the whole Danzig one we talked about last time, like I got to see Danzig and they were good and I met them and that was it.
Right.
And that was like in like the 80s. So this was like in my friend Rick Thorne, who's a pro BMXer and he's a comedian and
oh yeah, I know Rick. Yeah.
What else does he do? Rick Thorne. He's he's in a rock band. He's awesome. He's a kid I've known, or I always say kid. He's a guy I've known since I was a kid, and he'd be on the Warped Tour every year. Like Thorne was always on tour, whether it was the Sprocket Jockeys doing BMX shows or doing like the Warped Tour. He was always on tour, always busy doing stuff, and so he's like, he knew that I was a Suicidal Tendencies fan. And he's like, hey, this year at the Warped Tour, he's like, Suicidal's on my bus. Like we're on their bus. So I'm traveling with them. And I'm like, oh my God. Now at this point I I was older, so I wasn't like that dying to see Suicidal Tendencies. Like I've seen them a couple times live, and unfortunately, they're not good live at all. They're not a good live band.
Yeah.
Mike, I guess it's Murr, as I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's either Mir or Murr. We'll just say Murr.
M-U-I-R or something like that.
He's a great singer and he's great in Suicidal, but live, I just think his style of singing is just too hard to sing. It's just too hard to belt that shit out.
Right.
But anyway, so when I was a kid, I loved Suicidal Tendencies. So Thorne's like, look, we're gonna I got you passes, I got you in, we're gonna hang out and you can meet Mike Muir. So I like was a total like little like fan kid, even though I was like probably like 30 some years old at the time. I had like this book that had all these photos. I think it's called Fuck You Heroes is the name of the book. I forget the name of the artist or the photographer, but so it had all these photos of skateboarding, hip hop, and punk rock. So there's these awesome pictures of Suicidal Tendencies. So I go to the Warped Tour, I have my book, I have my pen, and I'm going to go get Mike's autograph. And I've gotten one autograph in my life. It was Tommy Lasorda, who was a baseball player and manager, if you know who he is. He's from this area. He's from he grew up with my uncles and stuff in the same town here. So I got his autograph. So I'm not I'm not a big autograph hound. And but I'm gonna get Mike's autograph on this book. So Suicidal plays, and then the rest of the band's like, he's at the and like all the dudes in the band, I have no idea who they are because every album he has like new dudes. Like you never know who's in the band. And so I'm kind of like nervous, and I'm like, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna meet Mike and get him to sign this stuff. So he's peddling like their merchandise at his little booth. So I walk over and I'm thinking there's gonna be like 1,000 people there, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be beat. And I walk up and he's sitting there by himself. And I guess by this time Suicidal wasn't that big of a band, really. They weren't like the biggest draw at the Warped Tour. And he's sitting there by himself, and I'm just like, this is kind of weird. So I walk up and I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm a big fan. I shake his hand and he's like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. And I'm like, could you sign this book? There's a photograph I want you to sign. So he's like, oh, I love this book. And all he wants to do is talk. He just wants to talk and hang out and look through the book and all this shit. And I'm just kind of like scared. And so he signs it and he goes, oh, wait, there's another picture back here. You want me to sign this one? So he signs it. And he's like, yeah, this guy, he's in jail. This guy, I don't even know where this dude is. He's like, yeah, when we took this photo, we're all hanging upside down. He goes, it was so cold, and we were hanging upside down. And all he wanted to do was talk. And I closed up the book and was like, thanks a lot, bye. And I left. And that was it. And Thorne was like, so like, why, like, couldn't you get the autograph? I'm like, no, I got him to sign it, and I left. And he's like, well, didn't you want to talk to him? Like, I kind of got scared, dude. And I like I mean, he had like the bandana down all low still, you know what I mean? And I was just kind of freaking out. I can almost say I was afraid. I was afraid of him, like, for some reason. I was just like, it was just too too weird. So
he seemed really cool from the story.
Yeah, no, I'd still be talking to him. Like he was a super, like, all the interviews and all the music I've seen, he seems like a dude that would, like, I didn't think he was gonna want to sit there and talk nonsense about, just big fat 30-year-old dudes coming up getting my autograph, like,
yeah.
And so I just got scared and I walked away, and that was it. So it wasn't that great of a story, but it just shows that, like, sometimes you just get scared.
It is a great story, actually, man. I mean, I've met celebrities and things like that, and I sometimes it's I can get starstruck sometimes depending on who it is.
Yeah.
But like, if they're like kind of shut down, then I'm just like, all right, here, thank you for the autograph, and leave. But if someone's like engaging with me, I don't know, I get like I met the fucking guy from the Jerky Boys.
Oh yeah,
Johnny Brennan.
Sometimes I listen to that. Yeah, and I don't know who he is.
He was so fucking cool. He was so cool. I just stand there and talk for like 20 minutes, And then some people, I'm just like, all right, I guess you're too cool for me. See you later. But yeah, cool, man. Speaking of Warped Tour, it's done, right? It's over. They're not doing it anymore.
I think so. I think it's especially this year it is
now
with the COVID and all that stuff. Yeah. But I mean, like they did it for a million years, and I don't know what the concert scene is like.
Yeah.
I haven't been to a concert in forever. Like my big farewell concert was Slayer in Bam's backyard. If you ever heard that story.
Oh no
where
shit. Well,
Slayer played in Bam's backyard, and somebody I knew from MTV called me and my friend Mark Eaton, and they were like, "Hey, do you guys want to go see Slayer?" It was like it was a Wednesday night at like 6 o'clock, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to go see Slayer tonight at Bam's house?" And I'm like, "Okay."
They aired
and
that, didn't they?
It was yeah.
I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I was on it for about, or was I? No, I wasn't. Nah, I don't think I might, like, there was probably a crowd shot, but my friend Mark, he videotaped the whole thing. So he's got the whole thing like on YouTube. If you just punch in Slayer Bam's backyard, it's got the whole, they only did they did 3 songs and they did them 2 times in a row. But wow. I got to hear Raining Blood fucking front row with 50 people. It was pretty awesome.
That's really sick. And Mark Eaton, I know him. He's on my I have him on my page, my Facebook page.
Yeah.
Dorkin,
he's going to be a dude that you could punch him in right now if you want. He's probably home doing nothing. If we invite him in, he'll talk, he'll kick it one day. He's been everywhere. He's got some good, I make him tell me a story every couple of years, the story where he got arrested and spent 3 days in jail. I could hear it 100 times. It's my favorite story for him.
Oh, but, no shit.
From him. But
listen, why don't we do that then? Next volume 3.
Oh yeah. No, he can.
I'll contact him on Facebook or either way.
I will. I talk to him every day. Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
That'd be
cool.
Funny.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. All right, so let's move on here. What do we got? You sent me this one.
There they are.
Dennis McCoy and Rick Moliterno, right?
Right.
They're, I've heard these names a million times, so I know this is gonna be a pretty good story.
Yeah, your brother was on their team. Your brother was on tour one year with Rick. He was on tour with him for one summer, and this story is pretty. This story, even if you don't know who these guys are, I think you can figure out what a crazy story it was, because I always say it's a story that Hollywood couldn't write. So it was pretty awesome. Where should I begin?
The beginning.
The beginning. Well, the one thing I just figured out, because I was telling the story up at Woodward. So I had met Dennis and Rick both the same time, a year before this incident. So looking back at it, I felt like I knew these guys for like 20 years, but I'd only known these guys maybe a year. I didn't even know them that well. But so in 1987, I was a senior in high school, and I think we talked about this before. I wasn't the best student ever, and the last year I was just trying to take courses that I could get enough credits to graduate.
Right.
And so I took this class called PE Major, where it was basically you had gym every day, the last period of the day. And I was like, well, this will be awesome. Like every day, like at 1 o'clock or 1:15, I'm basically done school, because then I'll just have gym and I'm done. So I took this class, and it was just like, we basically just went to the gym, shot some basketballs, played ping pong, and ran around, and we didn't do much. And so for our final grade, the teacher was telling us that he's like, basically you guys are just like dicking around all year, but your final grade, I want you to teach the class a sport or teach them something. So like the football players, like all it was in the class were football players and cheerleaders. And I fit in because I didn't fit in, if that makes any sense. Like I kind of could just fit in anywhere, because I was just like the dumb, goofy, chubby kid that just talked a lot. So I didn't really have any enemies in high school, I don't think. I kind of fit in everywhere, but I didn't fit in. But anyway. So I'm in this class, and so the football players, I'm going to show you how to throw like a football. And so he spent, 40 minutes showing you how to drop back, throw a pass. Then the cheerleader was like, here's how you cheer, blah, blah, blah. Another guy did the pole vault, stuff like that. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do BMX freestyle. Back then it was just called freestyle. And the ace up my sleeve was Gary Pollock. And Gary was, my best friend in high school. Still talk to him all the time. He lives in Jersey now. But Gary was the #1 amateur in his age group. And so I'm like, well, what I'll do is I'll bring all these magazines in, like the pictures you see on the screen there of Dennis and Rick. I brought those magazines in, and I was going to have Gary go out and do like a 5-minute run doing all his tricks. And I was going to talk about the sport and how to do it and how it first started and how Gary, like, hey, Gary's a kid in your school, and instead of playing football or baseball, he's a freestyler and he travels around the country doing these shows and contests. So I was like, I'll get an A. This will be awesome. And so the day came, I go to class, and I have my bike there, and Gary has his bike, and Gary's not there. I'm like, dude, it's time to go. Where the hell's Gary? So I run to his class, and he's taking a final. He's like, dude, I totally forgot. I have a final today, and I can't help you out. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I'm like, I can do one trick. I'm like, I'm going to fail miserably. Right. So I'm dead. I'm just dead. Like my whole world just sinks. So I go into the gymnasium. There's like 12 or 15 kids sitting on the bleachers, and I have my RL22, Redline RL22. I have all the magazines, and I'm literally scratching my head going, I don't know what to do. So I start explaining what the sport is. Everyone's just like, this is beat. I do like one trick, like I do like a frame stand and maybe like hop around a little bit. And they're just like, this is beat. This is the beatest thing in the history of the world. Okay. And then, so now we'll put that on pause for a second. Okay.
Yeah.
So while this is going on, same weekend, now this is on a Friday, that weekend, the Dan Up Freestyle Tour was coming to Philadelphia. And the Dan Up Freestyle, it was a Say No to Drugs tour. And they got the best guys in the BMX world. They had Dennis McCoy, Rick Moliterno, Matt Hoffman, Eddie Fiola, Gary Pollock, and that might have been it. And so Gary was on this tour. So Rick and Dennis were in Philadelphia, and they were doing a radio show the day of my final grade. And they were going to do this radio show. It got canceled, so they went to Gary's house. They got there around 2:00, and they said, "Hey, is Gary home?" And they're like, "Oh, he'll be home in about a half an hour. He gets done school at like 2:30. But the school's only right down the street, so if you want to go down there, you might run into him." Now, this is the same moment where I was just probably doing like the little hops on my bike, and they're telling me to go, leave, and I'm going to get an F. So a dude, Daryl McIntosh, is walking the halls, and he comes into the gym, and he's like, "Yo, Ray, there's these two dudes outside doing tricks on bikes." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, what? I'm like, "What's Gary doing out there? Like, he just told me that like he has the final." I open up the door, and Dennis McCoy and Rick Moliterno are in the driveway or in the parking lot. Rick's doing like 360s down these steps. Dennis is doing something, and I'm just like, hold on a second. And I run out, and I'm like, "Rick, Dennis, you guys got to do me a big favor here." And they're like, "Hey, what's going on, man? You guys done? Where's your bikes?" I'm like, no, hold on. I'm teaching a class right now. I'm teaching BMX. Can you guys come in and do a show? And they're like, "Yeah," just like that. So a dude goes and gets a Beastie Boys License to Ill tape. They get a boom box out of like the cheerleading room. They get this big boom box, and they just put on License to Ill. And Dennis and Rick do a half-hour demo in my gymnasium, in my high school for my final grade, in front of 12 or 15 kids. They do this crazy. Now these are two of the best flatlanders ever back then. Like you got the top pro and the top 19 and over expert. Like you couldn't have got better dudes. So they did the show. I'm showing the magazines. Everybody's freaking out. The teacher's freaking out. They're like, "This is incredible." And like Dennis and Rick, they can talk all day. And they're, after it's all done, they're like, "Yeah, we do this, we do that, blah, blah, blah." And so, of course, I got an A. And then Gary shows up. And I'm like, "Dude, you just missed like an awesome show." And then when it was all over, Rick's like, "Hey, where's my $600? We get $600 a piece." But I never paid him. But but I was trying to explain to everybody. I'm like, dude, this is like if I was doing basketball and I had Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan come and do a slam dunk contest.
Right.
You know, like I went from being humiliated my senior year. Like, this is the last thing people are going to remember of me. Like, Big Fat Ray had his bike and he couldn't, not only could he not do any tricks, but we had to sit there for an hour, like watching him do nothing. And then all of a sudden the two best, like the best pro and the best amateur, who's basically pro, just showed up and did a 30-minute show. It was crazy.
That's fucking insane. Why were they there?
They were there. Well, they were, yeah. You're not paying attention. They were there for the Dan Up tour. They were doing the show on Saturday. Yeah.
But why were they at the school?
They were in Philly because they were doing a radio show and it got canceled. So they just went to Gary's house to ride his half pipe. Gary had a huge half pipe in his backyard. So they went to Gary's house and his parents were like, well, he's still at school. And Gary only lived right down the street from the school. So they went to the school to see if like, oh, Gary's getting done in like 10 minutes. So let's go to the school and ride around. Because like Dennis and Rick would have went to the school no matter what. Because they would know to go there and ride around because there'd be people there and just causing a ruckus and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So, but the thing that's funny is if my friend Daryl McIntosh, he could have just walked by and been like, whatever, and they would have stayed outside. And then it would have been even funnier because then I would have like got an F and it would have sucked. And then I would have walked outside and saw them and they would have been like, yeah, we've been outside for an hour. So luckily, Daryl McIntosh, my brother, I don't know where Daryl is these days, but he saved my life, that Daryl McIntosh. It was pretty awesome. Man,
dude, that's like a fucking sitcom. Like that's the kind of writing.
It's great.
You said before, no one can really write that, but that's like that is literally the plot of a sitcom. Like, oh, this guy's fucking up, his senior year of school, and then here comes like two superheroes save the day.
That's what they were, total superheroes. And like back then in the sport, Dennis and Rick were, if they showed up at a contest, they got mobbed. Like they were the main dudes, So it was crazy that they would be there at my high school. So it was awesome.
Worked out good.
Everything works out,
Yeah.
Oh, that guy. Oh, there he is.
This guy.
There's my boy. Now that photo, my friend put my head on. I'm not that skinny. My friend put my head on Brett Downs' body. But
that's him. Before you get into it, for anyone's listening, this is a picture of Bill Allen from Rad, the main guy, Crew Jones, and Ray standing next to him. But Ray's photoshopped. His face is photoshopped onto a body. But to be honest with you, man, I was like, is it or isn't? Is it not? Because you got the Plywood Hoods T-shirt on. I'm like, what are the odds? Of just taking like a random person and putting your face on it. But I obviously you can see now. But the head's a little, like turned a little unnaturally.
The guy who did that, Tom Leopold, I think is like, I don't know. I've known him forever, but I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Tom Leopold is a master at the face swap and whatever that's called.
It's close.
And
it's hard to tell.
He did that. Yeah. But I was there that day. I may have taken that picture of Brett and Crew Jones.
Okay.
I was there that day, but I did not want to get my picture taken with him because I have a very odd. I don't like to use the word hate.
Yeah.
I have a beef with Bill Allen. Just a slight beef that we can talk about, which is actually kind of funny. I definitely have a beef. Okay. So Bill Allen, he was in the movie Rad, 1986. He was in the movie Rad. And for when we were kids, that was a big deal, the movie Rad. Like we went to the movie theater, we brought our bikes, and we're like, oh my God, we're going to see Rad. And at the time, I would say I thought Rad was a good movie when I was 16. A few years later watching it, I was like, this is a really beat movie. Like this movie's really not that good. And then watching it now as an adult, it's unwatchable. It's just the dialogue, it's like, it might be funny to watch with like 20 of your friends to like make fun of everything, but we watched it when we were kids because of the writing. Like we knew like, well, that's Martin, that's Eddie, and it's not this Bill Allen guy riding. But So we liked it for that part of it.
Mhm.
But so years went by, and when these old school reunions would show up or any type of old school gathering, Bill Allen showed up at one day. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of neat. Like, he showed up, and I, it'd probably be fun to go see, the guy that played in Rad. So one of my friends went, and he was a little younger than me, and he's a guy I met later in life at one of these like BMX events. And he came back from this event, and he's like, oh, Bill Allen was there. Yeah, it was awesome. I met him, and I got his autograph. And I'm like, and I'm laughing. I'm like, wait, you got his autograph? I'm like, why'd you get his autograph? He goes, well, because he had like the 8x10 thing, and like his $20, and I'm like, you paid for his autograph? He goes, yeah, he has these 8x10 glossies, and he signs them, and it's like, to Brian, good luck, Crew Jones, or Bill Allen, or whatever. And I'm like, dude, what? I'm like, who the fuck would pay money for his autograph? I'm like, are you serious? So then I was like intrigued. I'm like, why would this guy go to this thing? I'm like, that's kind of weird. So then like he started showing up at more and more things, and I was like, I just kind of like there's another movie, BMX Bandits. You ever see that, BMX Bandits? And it's got Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you don't see Nicole Kidman showing up at the Woodward reunion signing autographs.
Well, because
you know what I mean?
She got a career after, I mean, not after that movie.
Right.
Like,
well, I don't want to say that, but yeah. Like Bill Allen, I'm sure he was in other movies. I've never seen him in anything, but like even in that movie, if you watch it, like when he wasn't a stunning actor. He wasn't like a young Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio. He was just Bill Allen, and that's probably why you don't know much about him, because he was in a movie that we all loved.
Yeah. And
I can kind of see now like him going to one of those things, but more is like to sell stuff. Like this photo that you have up, there was a movie that premiered, and I think it was called like The King of Dirt, or I'm not sure the name of it. It was a guy in Pennsylvania did a movie called The Lord of Dirt, The King of Dirt, something to do with BMX. Yeah. And that dude, of course, was probably a fan of Rad, and he had Bill Allen play the dad in this movie. Okay. So this is where this photo was. We went up there. They had a show, meaning like a bike show, and I didn't see the movie, but Bill Allen was up there peddling his book. Like he has a book, and he's like, hey, do you guys want to buy a book? And his wife's like peddling these books. She's like, he really had an interesting life. And my friend Brett Downs looked at her. He goes, I think we've all had a pretty interesting life. Like his life isn't any more interesting than my life. Like I would say my life was way more interesting than Crew. I could come up with some shit that knock your socks off. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not that. I just don't think this guy's using BMX to sell shit, which isn't wrong, but he's just not a big BMX figure. You know what I mean? So I think my incident with him was after this photo. But I was at a reunion at Woodward West in, I guess, 2010. And I go to this reunion, and there's every rider from when I was a kid, like in the magazines, like the famous dudes, most of them were there. And then there's a lot of younger guys. Like if I was 40, there were guys that were in their 30s, and they know who these dudes are, and they've all seen Rad. And so we go to this event, and at night, the dudes ride all day, and then at night they have it's almost like a wedding reception, there's big round tables, and there's food and the bar, and everyone's drinking and just talking and just having a good time. So the big talk that day was that Bill Allen's going to be there. And I'm like, who's Bill Allen? They're like, Bill Allen, the guy from Rad. Because back then I kind of don't think I knew his name.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, wait, that fucking guy, Bill Allen. Okay, that's the guy that my friend had to pay for a fucking autograph. So I don't see him all day. And then we go to the dinner at night, and it's packed. And there's a table with 10 chairs, and there's 9 people sitting at this table. And I didn't know anybody that was at this table. And I was like, and I had a plate of food, and I was like, hey, do you guys mind if I sit here? And they're like, oh, no, not at all. And maybe a couple dudes might have knew who I was from because like I think by then that Maid show, the Maid show, they might have known me from that, or they might have known me just from like riding back in the day. So I put my stuff down, and I said, hey, I'm gonna go up and get something to drink. Can you guys make sure nobody steals my seat? Because like there was nowhere to sit. And they're like, yeah, no problem. So I go and I go, and like 5 minutes later I come back with like 2 drinks, and fucking Bill Allen wearing that same fucking jacket. He's sitting in my seat, and everyone's looking at him, talking to him. He's all, hey, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yo, I told you guys not to give my seat up. Now, I like to cause a ruckus. Like in this certain moment, I was like, you know what, dude, this is funny. This is fun. I'm gonna let this guy fucking have it. But it's a joke, but he's not gonna know it's a joke. I'm gonna know it's a joke. And maybe the people I'm trying to get the table I'm sitting at, trying to get them to giggle. Because I think everybody thinks like me. So I think everybody's like, hey, it's that fucking Bill Allen guy, the guy from Red. So I'm like, dude, why'd you guys give up my seat? And they're like, it's the guy from Red. I'm like, Red? Fucking nobody watched that movie, dude. Get the fuck out of my seat, you and your fucking Knight Rider jacket. And he's like getting up, and he's like fixing his little leather coat. And I'm like, dude, get the fuck out of my seat. I told you guys not to give my seat. And you give my seat to the guy from fucking Rad. I'm like, God damn. So I make like kind of a scene, and he fucking gets up and walks away. And everybody was like, dude, what was that all about? I'm like, oh, I was just fucking around. They're like, do you know him? I'm like, no, I never saw him before in my life. But I'm like, come on, it's fucking Rad. I'm like, what's the guy fucking doing here? I'm like, you guys didn't buy anything off him, did you? And so I tell my friend Warren, I'm like, dude, I just, yeah, hey, I have a DVD. So I tell my friend Warren, I'm like, dude, I just like laid in the fucking crew over here, and I'm like, I don't think he knows I was kidding. I'm like, I was kind of serious, but I was really more just kidding. And he's like, I'll talk to him. So Warren went over and talked to him for a while, and Warren was talking to him about the Rad tour and all this stuff. And he's like, hey, you know, he's a really nice guy. He's a nice guy. And he's like, why don't you come over and say hi? I'm like, fuck him. I'm like, I don't want to ruin what I did back there. You know what I mean? I want to have a little bit of fear, you know. But I'm sure if I went to one of those things and sat down with him, I'm sure we'd be laughing about shit. Yeah. And he's probably a super nice guy. I've never heard anything bad about him at all. Yeah. Nothing. I've never heard a bad story about him. I just like to bust his balls because he infiltrated our sport, and you know, I just want to fuck with him.
So I actually, I love that fucking movie. First of all, like to this day,
Rad.
Like, dude, I bought the fucking.
It's unwatchable. Have you watched the director's cut, like where all the dudes are talking? That's really funny. Where,
no,
like, they got Eddie Fiola. Oh, that's what you got to watch. That's how you watch it. Watch a director's cut, or if it's called something else, but it has Eddie Fiola. It's got the Crew Jones dude. It's got the Jose Yanez that claims to have been the guy that did the first backflip, even though he didn't. And I'll fight about that if you want to hear that. And Martin Aparicio, they all talk about Rad and being there, and like they, you know, while the movie is playing, they talk about it, which is pretty cool.
Oh, you mean like the commentary?
To sit and watch. Commentary. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, dude. So
for the 10 words.
I bought the fucking like new version of it, the 4K. It's not 4K. It's like it looks like the fucking VHS. No, it's not a waste of money. It was. Yeah,
it is,
dude.
It's Rad, dude.
Listen, I'm very well aware it's not like a fucking great movie, but it's nostalgic. That's what I like about it.
Yes, it is.
And it definitely reminds me of Joe, you know, my brother back in the day and stuff like that.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a fucking stupid movie, but I watch it like multiple times a year, dude. I'm like a huge fan of that movie.
Yeah.
But speaking of like people, you know, charging you for autographs and shit like that, you know, no, this is a good story.
You're starting to. No, you're.
What's happening? I'm breaking up
because you broke up for a second. You froze right now on the screen. Now you're back.
Man? My bars are full. I don't know what the fuck's going on tonight.
Keep going. We're good.
Yeah.
So you're watching Rad, wasting some fucking time.
No, I was actually talking about conventions, like when you go to those things, and the first time I went to one,
the Comic-Con.
Yeah, stuff like that. The first time I went to one,
thing?
I went to like a horror movie one because I'm a huge horror movie fan, and I didn't know that they charge money.
You just lost me there, dude.
Yeah, I lost you. That's not the point of the story though. Like,
okay,
they chart. So I paid to get the ticket. I don't know what it was, $25-$30. And I was like, oh, cool. I get to go meet all these people, get pictures taken with them, get autographs. No, they each fucking charge you. And I didn't know that. I had like $30. I had like $20 in my pocket, dude. I was like, oh, I got some money for a pretzel later. You know, I wasn't planning on spending $200 on meeting people.
You're going to buy Crew Jones autograph for $20 for some black and white glossy to hang in your fucking shelf there.
So, and I understand why they do it now. You know, it's like they do it on their own dime. They, you know, they print out all the stuff and they go and whatever you feel about it, I don't know. But like, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it'd be reasonable at least. Like Freddy Krueger was there, like Robert Englund. And of course I really wanted to meet him, dude. It was like $100. I was like, fuck off, man. I don't care that much, dude. Like, are you serious?
I would love to be in a film someday to go to one of those. And every person that came up to me to get my autograph, I'd give them $5. Yeah. I'd be like, thank you for coming over and saying hi. Here's $5. Dude.
Seriously, well,
you know what I mean?
After a couple more of these shows, dude, you're going to be at one of those conventions with, you know, hell fucking yeah in the background, you know. You can sign like.
Well, that I'll do that.
I was on MTV Made, you know. You could sign your.
$1. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I think that he just got lucky with that movie, and he just rode the fucking coattails of that forever. I mean, he wrote the book and stuff. I got his book. I didn't read it yet, but.
Yeah, I'm not gonna read it. Do you know who owns that movie?
No, I do not.
Do you know who owns the movie?
No.
So in the movie, who was his mom? Adrian.
Yeah.
From
Rocky.
From Rocky. Mm-hmm. Okay. She owns that movie.
No shit.
She bought it. So like if you went out and bought the DVD, she gets $1 for it. Like I thought that was awesome. She bought that movie because I guess like she had a chance to and was like, she probably made a bunch of money from doing whatever. She was in The Godfather. Wasn't she in The Godfather? You know, I've never, like, people kill me for this. The list of movies I haven't seen, and I've never seen The Godfather.
Wow.
Like 1, 2, or 3, or 4,
that's
or whatever.
Insane. You're Italian too, aren't you?
Never seen it. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, well, no, my grandmother. We're going to talk about my grandmother.
Yeah,
I'm not Italian. I'm Sicilian. God damn it. Pop was Sicilian, and I'm Sicilian, and you're half Mitigan and half Sicilian. But that's my grandma voice, by the way.
Yeah, that was great.
I
voice.
can't do a lot of voices. Uh-oh.
No, we're good. We're good. I did this on purpose.
I can't do a lot of impersonations, but I can do my grandmother spot on. Like I would call, there she is. I would call my mom and go, Nancy, I need a half a pound of gabagool and a quarter of a pound of sharp provolone. And she'd be like, well, Mom, didn't you just get, I'm like, Mom, it's me. And she's like, what? Like my mom thought it was her mother.
Right.
That's how good of a grandma person. There she is, the most evil lady in the world right there.
She is. Well, now listen,
my goodness.
First of all, was this taken like off a VHS? What is this on the bottom?
Yes, it was a VHS tape. I don't know. Yeah, all I had, she died in 99, I think.
Okay.
So it's just VHS tapes. But that was from a friend's wedding. And my brother and I were in this guy's wedding, Stephen Lindacki. We were in his wedding. And so she just went. Like my dad went, who was her mother-in-law. It wasn't my mom's. Wasn't his mom. It's a long story. But anyway, my dad and my grandmother went to, there we are. Look at that dude.
Look at that.
I look good. Look at that. That is a waxed down afro too. But that's my grandmother, and she was the worst racist. And like I've met a lot.
She looks
of
like such a sweet old lady.
That's a trick. She was, if you weren't born in the town in Sicily that she came from, you were a son of a bitch. And my mother met my father, and they got married. And my dad was a German guy, a German dude from North Philly that grew up in a boys' home. And my grandmother was like, you can't marry that guy. And they got married, and my grandmother didn't talk to my mom or dad for 20 years because she married out of the race or whatever it's called or whatever. She's crazy. She loved me though. She loved me and my brother like you wouldn't believe. Like she loved me and my brothers crazy, but she didn't have very many friends. horrible racist, and just unbelievable. You know, like probably never went to school. Like could she, you know, back when she was a kid during the Depression, everyone just quit school to work and all. But she knew how to work and save money, so she did that. And she, other than that though, she was pretty crazy.
Any like, what's some of the craziest stories? Anything in particular?
Oh God. Well, there's a lot of stories. Like there's a lot of stories where she put me in situations where I thought I was going to die, because she would have no problem letting people know how racist she was. And like, how can you tell a story today and use a word, but not be in trouble for it? Like, I won't say the N word, but she never really did use the N word. She would use a different word, but to say, like, I could just, if I just tell the story, it's not me saying, it's a grandma, right?
Yeah, you can quote.
Help me out here.
You can quote. Well, what's the word?
I can quote her.
What does it start with?
The word. It starts with a C. She would call African Americans in her day, from the time she was around, it was very normal for her to call an African American colored.
Okay.
You know,
right,
and you see that in movies. You know what I mean? Like the colored family that lives next door. You know, like I play hockey with them or something like that. You know what I mean? So my grandmother used to use that word all the time. And I would tell her, now this is like in the 80s and 90s. I'm like, Grandma, listen, you can't call people that. That's not, you can't say, what do you want me to call them? I'm like, you just call them Bob, or just say your neighbor. You can't say that word. No one uses that word. I can say anything I want. That was her thing. I could say whatever I want.
Right.
And
she did.
So and she did. I can't figure out, and it's a shame because I can't ask my mom. My mom and dad are both passed away, and I want to find out how my mom never became like her, because my mom and dad were like the sweetest people, and growing up they never had any. There was never one thing where they were like, where I'd be like, oh my God, that's a racist comment. You know what I mean? Like they just, like my neighbors and some relatives, like, you know, whatever, would say certain stuff, but my parents never, ever. And I'm like, coming from grandma here, I don't know how this happened, but so my grandmother, talking about a grandma story, we went to Denny's. We would always go to Denny's on her birthday because you show your driver's license and you get a free like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So she'd go three times a day on her birthday. And so we went to this Denny's in this neighborhood. It's called Norristown, which is a couple towns over. And that's where she grew up. And the majority of the people that worked there and ate there were black. And so we'd go there all the time. Everything would be fine. And one day we go there on her birthday and we eat breakfast or whatever. And my grandmother would leave like her $1.10 tip. You know what I mean? And every time she did it, I'm like, all right, come on, Grandma, let's go. And I'd always throw like a $5 or $8 on the tip. Like I'd always tip double. Like if something was $10, you give them $20. You know, for my grandmother growing up where she grew up, like in the Depression, that's crazy. And my dad, my mom, my brothers were always big tippers. It's just something we've always done. And so my grandmother sees that I throw the money on the table and she causes big stink. And she leaves like $2 on the table, puts my money in her pocket. And this girl comes over to bust the table, and she gets the $2 and puts it in her pocket, blah, blah, blah. And my grandmother's like, hey, that's not your money. That's my waitress's money. So the waitress happened to be white, and the chick that busted the table was black. Well, right there, my grandmother's like, that damn girl stole the money, but she causes the biggest fucking ruckus you've ever seen in a restaurant, right? So everyone's watching my grandma, and now my grandmother's like, that's my grandmother full height there. She's about 4'8", okay? She's yelling at this lady and blah, blah, blah. And the girl's like, look, they busted tables and we all share tips. She didn't steal your tip. then the manager comes up and he starts telling her, look, everything's fine, blah, 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 blah. Now, everybody that's working there and all the people in the waiting room, they're all black, all black people.
Yeah.
They're just chilling, hanging out, and they're watching this crazy fucking white lady say all this shit. So all eyes are on Grandma and me, unfortunately. So we're standing at the front, and I would have to like pull the car up for Grandma. She could like barely walk, and she's letting these people that are working there and the manager have it, and she just goes, "That tip is for my waitress, and she took it, and blah blah blah. You goddamn coloreds are all alike." And I'm just like, oh my God. I turned around, walked out, and I left my grandmother there. I left her there. I said, dude, if they fucking kill her, she deserves it. Fuck this. I go, she's gonna die, and I'm gonna die. And these guys have every right to fucking beat this lady up. I'm like, fuck it. And I went out and I got the car. I pulled up, and she's still in there yelling. Finally, like, I walked back in, and like all these dudes are looking at me. And you know what? They were looking at me, and they weren't looking at me like, fuck you and fuck your grandmother. They were like, we feel sorry for you, dude. Your grandmother's fucking from a different time, and you know, there's nothing they could even say, because they were all looking at me. A bunch of black dudes just looking at me going like, hey bro, just get your fucking stupid white grandma out of here, and we ain't gonna kill her. And I was like, I'm seriously like went in there and like gave these dudes a look like, thank you, and we're never coming back here, because my grandmother's a fucking racist fucking wacko. But just shit like that, man. She would it's so bad. And like, I'm so happy that my son grew up and he's not seeing that. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't see any of that. Like, even like in his school and with his friends, he'll never see that. I mean, he'll see it eventually because it's out there, you know what I mean? But with where he's growing up and the people he's with and the way that people are these days, you know, he has like where he, you know, when he's in school, there's black, white, Spanish, Asian, whatever. It's all mixed up, which is great. And he's only known that his whole life. So, you know, there'll be racism. It's never going to get fixed, unfortunately. I mean, that's, you know, it's just not, there's just too many people that are, you know, I think Richard Pryor said it. It was awesome. He said, and this is in the 70s, he goes, I've seen racism. He's like, there's white people down south that are chained up in a basement, like those like racist people. Like, there's some people down south that are like really, really out of control. Yeah. And so my grandmother was bad, and she put us in some bad situations. And the more I talked to her about it and said you can't do it, she kind of kept doing it just to be a dick. But she was my grandmother, and she loved me.
Listen, you know, and that's the thing too. It's like you said, she's from a different time, and not that it makes it acceptable, but it you know, it kind of is what it is. Like what they're doing now with censoring things from the past, it's like leave them, because I mean, if something's outrageous, get rid of it. But like
right.
Like taking like little things out of like Disney cartoons and stuff, like we need those things there to remember what it was like, you know what I mean? It's like erasing history in a way. But yeah, things have definitely gotten a little better as far as like today's generation and things like that. But yeah, it's always going to exist. But it's crazy to hear about, you know, even in my family, you know, now, like, I'm not saying there's like blatant racist, but they're older. Right,
but you got that one uncle or that one aunt that, you know,
and
that'll say some stupid shit, and you're like, man, that's like, you know, are you really saying that? Like today, you're saying that? Come on, man.
It's crazy, especially in today, and especially like right now, like what's going on in the world. But what are you gonna do?
So grandma, grandma, not only was she like, that's just one aspect of how bad grandma was. She's just so weird. But a real quick story I'll tell you is So one day she calls me at like 4 a.m. Phone's ringing. This is before cell phones. Phone just ringing, and I pick up the phone. I'm like, Grandma, what do you want? She's like, I need you to. Should I do it in grandma voice? No, I won't do it in grandma. She's like, I need you to come over. My sink's backed up. Now she lived in like this like assisted living type of house. Like she lived in this little apartment, but she lived on her own. But they had like a 24-hour maintenance dude. She goes, I need you to come, and my sink's backed up. I'm like, well, just call Bob, the janitor guy. He'll fix it. He's not here, and my sink, I need it right now. I'm like, it's 4 a.m. I'm like, can I just come tomorrow, like tonight? I have to go to work. I got to be there at like 6. No, you got to come over now. So 4:15, I get dressed and I go to my grandmother's, which was probably like 15 minutes away. I go into her apartment. I go into the kitchen, and I'm like, the sink's not backed up. She goes, not the kitchen, in the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, all right. So I go into the bed. I'm like, this really couldn't wait till like later. She's like, no, I got to wash and do this, whatever. I'm like, just all right, whatever. Go into the bathroom, and the bathroom sink is concaved, filled to the top, brown water with like poop floating on the top, right?
Oh my God.
I'm like, I go, Grandma, I think you have a sewage problem here. She's like, no, it just backed up. I'm like, no, hold on. I don't know much about plumbing. I go, but if there's poop coming up through into your thing, she's like, no, it just, you need to plunge it, and there's stuff. And I'm like, I don't think a plunger's going to fix this. And she's like, and she's fucking going nuts, right? So she has a plunger, and she's like, you got to plunge it. And I'm like, if I put a plunger in, all this shit water is going to go everywhere. So I have to get like a cup, and I get a bucket, and like, it's feces, dude. And I'm just dumping horrible feces in and all this. And finally I plunge it, and it goes right down, and there's just shit in the sink. And I'm like, Grandma, why? I'm like, you got to tell me what happened. Like, what did you do? And she's like, nothing. I didn't do anything. I'm like, tell me what happened, or else I'm going to fucking kill you. What? She's like, all right, look, I got a little poop in the sink by accident. I'm like, how'd you get poop in the sink? She's like, well, I went to break a little wind, and I pooped, and I ruined my underwear. So I washed it out in the sink, but there was a lot of poop in my underwear. And I'm like, what? I go, Grandma, just wrap that shit up and throw it out. Like, no, those goddamn underwears were $2.99 for 4 pair at the Kmart's, and I wasn't going to throw them out. I thought of it, but I didn't. I'm like, so you called me up at 4 a.m. to plunge shit out of the goddamn sink? And she's like, yeah. So that's the kind of the kind of shit I had to do for Grandma. Literally. That's just like one of like 700 stories like that. Like every day was a grandma story. Like, oh my God, every day.
Holy shit, man.
Like that.
That's
literally
crazy.
Shit like that.
That is insane. Well, for the next one, maybe we'll at the end we'll tell a couple more. Because that was a good one to wrap it up on.
All right. Wrap it up, baby.
Well, before we go, actually, I got a couple things I wanted to show you.
Yes.
Here. Okay.
Yes.
So, working on like some T-shirts for my show and things like that. All right. It's one of these things where
it's just like you.
It's one of these things that you don't have to put any money out. Like they're printed on demand. So someone orders it.
Oh yeah.
It gets made. You make a couple
Bill
bucks.
Allen does this.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So
there you go.
Now this is obviously my little logo on the front of the shirt here.
Yeah.
But the back of the shirt, my friend.
It can't say hell fucking yeah. You can't sell that. Like, there you go, Liberty Bell.
So this is the large race shirt.
That's a good one,
man.
Oh yeah, dude. Let me tell you this. You can sell those, and you can keep all the money, unless once it goes over $5,000, then you got to give me $1 a shirt. But you keep the first $5,000. No, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do, actually, because I have a couple of people. Buy that shirt.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Shirt,
I'm fucking going to buy this shirt.
Dude, you gotta have 2 little kids next to it. You gotta have a little fat kid and a little short little Adam Spiegel kid, dude. Like Beavis and Butthead, dude.
Oh, no. So for the people listening, on the back of the shirt is the Liberty Bell. and it says Large Ray was here with like a marker from the
Yeah.
story from last time.
That's funny.
So
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
what I'm gonna do. I'm going to, like, any shirts that I design, obviously, I'm gonna keep the money. But
Yeah.
anybody who has like something to do with the shirt, like this is obviously a joke from the show. We're gonna split it. We're gonna split the profits 50-50. I'm not, I mean, you're not gonna fucking get rich.
What are we gonna listen? What are we gonna do with 50 cents, dude? You can have my 50
No,
cents.
dude, I'm telling you, man, the profit margins are actually pretty good. You probably make like $5 a shirt.
Listen.
All right? You can take that $5 for the shirt and give it out at conventions.
Okay, listen. No, I want you to keep that money. I want you to keep what I put it this way.
I'm fair. No,
I definitely want a shirt.
Okay.
No, I want a shirt. I don't want any money for the shirt. I just want you. I would love for you to be successful in selling that shirt and all the other shirts. I don't want any money. Like I said, if you sell 5,000 of them, then you can start giving me. Then you can start. But before 5,000, you can keep all the cash. I just want a shirt. I want to probably
listen.
At least a XXX.
This is as good as a contract. You heard it here. It's recorded forever. All right?
Yeah.
But I'm not like that, man.
I'm not.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm not. I would love for you to be able to sell those shirts and make the money. I would love for you to be able to do that. So, I mean, if you sold, like, put it this way, if you sold 10, I would be amazed. And I would love for you to just keep that.
Like I said before, man.
I'd like one shirt.
Last show was the biggest one I've had so far, and it was almost 1,000 people listening to that. So, dude,
that's funny.
If there's Large Ray fans out there, man.
People love the Liberty Bell story. It's a great story. I would love to do that story and then have somebody do like the animation. Do you ever see that kind of stuff? I love when people do that. There was one with Dennis Rodman where Dennis Rodman tells a story.
Yeah.
And any Dennis Rodman story is good. And they got Dennis Rodman telling the story. Then they have like the animators do it like the cartoon. And that shit is funnier than anything you'll ever see. And if somebody could do one where they have the bus pull them up, it's 1976 and Adam Spiegel and Large Ray get out of the bus to go ring, and oh man, that'd be great. That's what I want you to do. I want you to take the money from the shirts, and if you have enough money,
we're gonna make an animation.
You can get enough money. I want an animation, and I have two people that you might be able to hire for that: Lee Ramsdale and I can't think of Steve's name right now. Steve Crandall. They're two BMX guys. They're both like artists, and they're great at artistry, I believe. And especially Crandall. I know Crandall. I've seen a lot of Crandall stuff. Oh my God, that would be helpful. So that's what I want to do. I want you to sell. Here we go.
I'm crazy.
I want you to sell the
I'll fucking do it.
Hell yeah, sure.
You have my word. Yeah.
Oh my God. There you go. And I can contact Crandall. I spoke to him recently through text, and we'll do the Adam Spiegel. That would be actually pretty fun. I wonder if Spike would probably laugh. Like, I don't think Spike ever listened to the story in full and like Spike's never even heard the story probably like in full whatever. He's just heard me yell at him every 10 years when I see him, like a comet. We rang the Liberty Bell, blah, and that's it. But he's never heard the whole story.
They have the that show on Vice that's like that. I forget what it's called, like Craziest Party Story or whatever, and they animate the whole thing. So we'll do something like that.
Yeah, I love that kind of shit.
So see what happens. This little idea spawns something else. So yeah, awesome, man. So I have.
All right, where's Joe? Where's your brother Joe?
My brother Joe is around the corner from my house.
How often do you see Joe? Do you see Joe a lot? Do you talk?
I haven't seen him recently, honestly.
I see him twice. I know.
Yeah.
Well, my brother lives 3 minutes away, and I see him twice a year.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
I lived in Connecticut for 8 years. I actually just moved back here like 3 years ago, and I've seen him more when I lived in Connecticut than I do now. He lives around the corner of my fucking house.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I'm always busy doing something, or like just timing, is not a thing.
Yeah.
I'll try to get him on.
I used to love hanging out with your brother at those contests. Like we would just because he was so good. He was like a superstar, and he would just he'd ride, and then we would just hang out at the hotel. And he was just a funny dude. Like he has a great laugh, and he loves to laugh.
Oh yeah.
And he would just laugh about shit. Look at you, ready to put a cancer stick in your face, dude.
I was waiting for it, man. Dude, I smoked like 100 cigarettes. I was waiting for you to fucking say something. Each time I lit it, I looked up. I'm like, is he gonna notice now? Is he gonna notice now?
I should have saved you my dad's pancreas when he died, man. I could have put it on the stick for you, and just be like, "This is Ray Schleckweg Sr.'s pancreas," and every time you could strike a match on it to light a match and light your cigarette.
I hate to say it, but it wouldn't matter. Like,
it wouldn't matter. Well, no, my dad was on his deathbed. My dad was on his deathbed smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, dude.
He's like,
we're
fuck
dedicated.
it now. He's like, fuck it. And he's like, I gotta smoke, dude.
Yeah.
Smoke if you got.
Like my last breath will be carbon monoxide.
Oh my God,
yeah.
That's so awesome.
No, I mean, I do have to quit. I know that I'm not stupid, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's almost like I need something to happen in order for me to quit. I hate to say that, but like
they call that a heart attack or something.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want a heart attack, but you know what I mean. Like, I want to wake up one morning and just like cough up blood or something. I don't know. Like, all right, it's time to quit.
That was in that movie, the Ty Cobb movie. If you ever saw it, do you ever see that? There's a great movie that never even went to the movies. It was just like, or never went. It went straight to video. It's called Cobb. It's the greatest movie ever. Yeah. It's Tommy Lee Jones plays Ty Cobb, and there's he's at like towards the end, and he's coughing up blood, and a piece of lung comes up, and he's like, "Fuck it," just does a shot of whiskey.
That's gonna be my story,
good
man.
Stuff. Great, can't wait.
My movie when it comes out. Yeah.
Hope you sell some shirts first, but
Bill Allen's gonna play me.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, if anyone ever does a movie about my life, I want Bill Allen to play me. Put him in a fat suit and just I want him to play me.
Oh my
Bill
God.
Allen. What if you got to get a hold of him? He's probably very easy to get a hold of.
Dude, I have tried.
He's on Facebook.
He's on my Instagram, so I've contacted him multiple times. And you know, in Instagram, when no, he doesn't say anything. In Instagram, when someone doesn't read the message, it doesn't say seen, so he's actually never seen the message.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Look
Eddie Fiola and Martin Aprio talk to him all the time, and I don't talk to those guys ever, but I could send them a message and they would be like, "Oh, it's Ray. Let's see what he wants." I mean, you got to get Bill Allen on just to like. I'd watch the Bill Allen interview. You got to get.
I'm going to bring you in on it.
I'll get it. Well, that's what. Oh yeah.
That'd be great.
You got to play on my story, and you just like, fuck that guy.
We'll just do an interview, and then I'll call you like halfway through, and I'll be like, "Hey, remember this guy?
Yeah.
Told you to get the fuck out of his chair."
Fuck Bill Allen. Yeah. I'll be able to. I can find somebody that has his info without a doubt. They're like, what's he doing? What's Bill Allen doing today right now? He
just wrote a book.
Doing nothing.
He just wrote a book called My Rad Career.
Dude, about what?
His rad career.
What a dick. Did he really put the word rad in there? Or are you making that up?
No, dude.
You're lying, right?
Dude, not only did he put the word rad in there, but it's the font of the movie. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not.
Dude,
I showed it to you last time.
Don't interview him. Yeah, fuck him.
I don't think if he actually watched this episode that he would come on the show.
Yeah, he would. He would. I'd be nice. We'd be friends at the end. That's the thing is, that's the angle. Be like, yo, there's this guy Ray, this old school BMX dude, and he's fired up at your career and what you've done with you've infiltrated the sport. I want to bring you two together. And it could be a feel-good piece, you know what I mean? For all the turmoil that's on the earth these days.
Yeah.
That's right. I said earth.
Yeah.
That's right.
Listen, let's make it happen, man, if it can. And we should get, what's his name?
Oh, you know what?
The blonde guy.
Mark Eaton can get a hold of Bill Allen, dude. Mark Eaton's a big-time BMX producer. Yeah, he'll get a hold of him. Without a doubt.
I'm going to try to get him on the next show with us, Mark. And we should also get the blonde guy from Rad. You know, the...
Bart Carner.
Yeah.
Bart Carner's got a great story about Rad where he was a gold medal gymnast, and he was at an event with Shaquille O'Neal, and he's like, so I'm standing in line, Shaquille O'Neal, I'm a gold medalist, and he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, ain't you the dude from Rad?" He doesn't even know that he's a gold medalist, but he knows him from Rad. That's a great story from that Bart Conner guy.
Yeah. I mean, that dance scene in Rad.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's amazing.
It's horrible.
Man. It's amazing.
It's not though, because when we watched it in the theater, you could tell it was Pat Romano. You could tell it was Martin Aparicio just by the style of the way they pedal the bike. You can tell who it is, you know. And they got like, it's just, it's so bad.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want somebody to redo
but...
Rad. Like, I want them to redo Rad with the same lines and the same shit. Just redo it.
That'd be amazing.
Today.
That'd be amazing.
I would, dude. I could play Crew.
Listen, after 10,000 shirts are sold, we're gonna produce that movie.
We got a lot. Once we sell all these shirts, a lot of shit to do. We're gonna be loaded.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out what color Lamborghini I'm gonna buy.
I'm telling you, man, this is gonna be huge. Huge.
All right. That's what I told my wife on our wedding night.
All right, man.
I got one in. You
got it, man. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Listen, Ray, thank you so much again, man. I really appreciate it. And we're gonna do it again next month. I'll be in touch with you. And all right. I'm gonna try to get Mark on, and we're gonna just bring this to the next echelon each time.
Yes. All right.
Yes. Thank you so much, man.
Are we signing off?
We're signing off.
Love, peace, and Dago grease. I'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace out.
Later, Ray. Thank you.